Okay, we'll go ahead and get our meeting started. Welcome everyone to the Tuesday, September 24th, 2024 meeting of the Escondido Planning Commission. I'll call the meeting to order. If you could please stand while we salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We could get the roll call, please.
Chair Weiler.
Here.
Vice Chair Barber.
Here.
Commissioner Maccaro.
Here.
Commissioner Spear.
Here.
Commissioner Jester.
Here.
And Commissioner Carell.
Here. This time, like a motion on the minutes, unless there's any discussion. No discussion. Anyone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Carell. Second. We have a second by Commissioner Jester. We have the vote.
So our system is currently not operational, so this will be the vocal vote again. Chair Weiler.
Yes.
Vice Chair Barber.
Abstain.
Commissioner Maccaro.
Approve.
Commissioner Spear.
Abstain.
Commissioner Jester.
Approve.
And Commissioner Carell.
Approve.
Vote is 4-0 to approve with 2 abstain.
This time, are there any written communications on anything not on the agenda tonight?
None at this time, no.
Any oral communications?
None at this time.
At this point, we'll go ahead and move to the public hearings. Item number 2 on the agenda, there was a request, I think from the applicant, that this item be continued until the meeting of October 8th. So if you're here for that particular item, that'll be heard on October 8th. From that, we'll move on to item 3, which is PL 24-0147, and that is a request for authorization for the Mills Act.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Alex Rangel, Assistant Planner for our Planning Division, and I would like to apologize in advance. As you can hear, my voice is a little bit under commission at the moment. So I'll be leaving this presentation a little bit more brief than I typically would, but otherwise, feel free to ask any questions at the end of the presentation. So I'll be presenting to you item PL 24-0147, a request for a recommendation to the City Manager to authorize the execution of a Mills Act contract with the homeowners of single-family residents in the old Escondido neighborhood. The subject site is located on the north side of 6th Avenue between Hickory and Grape Street and is addressed as 522 East 6th Avenue. It's comprising of a single 7,000 square foot lot within the boundaries of the old Escondido neighborhood, owned by the applicant Lorraine Hadley. Single-family home on site was originally constructed and estimated in 1910. Consists of a single, roughly 900 square foot residence, which was constructed of the craftsman bungalow architectural style with improvements in the elements of provincial revival style. The site has not been significantly improved since its original construction, outside of an original detached single-car garage constructed roughly in 1947, accessed primarily from 6th Avenue. This site was one of the original properties to be featured in the city's historic resources inventory, which the efforts began in 1980, and with part of the original batch additions of the creation of the city's local register of historic places. The property currently meets 2 of the 7 criteria identified in the City of Escondido Zoning Code, Section 33794. Criteria including the age of the property, it was originally constructed in 1910, and the distinguishing architectural style. The request before you again is in regards to the Mills Act request for a historic preservation agreement, otherwise known as property preservation or historical property contracts. Mills Act contract again is an agreement between a property owner and local government in order to provide a tax relief for owners of qualified historic resources in exchange for continued right maintenance, regular improvements, and to designate historical resources through financial incentives. Mills Act contract is available to property owners who are on the city's local register and include a schedule list of improvements that are identified as part of the agreement. These scheduled improvements are identified within your staff report for your review. The Mills Act contract's term is for 10 years, with an automatic renewal every year after the initial contract agreement. To date, the city has entered into over 100 Mills Act contracts with individual property owners throughout the city. The list you see here is again our scheduled improvements list, which is provided in your staff reports. This is again the scheduled list of improvements to quote unquote justify the contract request. As noted in here in your staff report, the city has historically allowed for previously completed improvements in the subject property to qualify. There we go. Then, previously completed improvements in order to qualify as an identified improvement of the Mills Act contract, depending on the quality of the improvement. Property owners requesting one such request, which consisted of an entire repaired attic window due to water damage and vulnerability. And this is notified as completed on your staff report and in this presentation slide. The city staff reviewed the recommended repair and recommended it to be part of their scheduled list of improvements, as well as found in conformance with the concepts of historic preservation. Shown here is that repair in its entirety. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the actual property prior to the repair, with the water damage, which is clearly visible, especially in the upper left picture. On the right-hand side is post-improvement, which consists of the full painting, the full repair of the replacement of the windows. In case there are any questions, the blackened area in the bottom pictures is a covered screening for some of the attic circulation fans that are in the seat and the roof. Another slide here shows some of the identified architectural enhancements to the accessory garage. It was noted at the time, especially throughout the 40s, 50s, and 60s, that a lot of these constructions were done as like more of a contemporary and more like, let's see what the word is, practical design, as opposed to something that's actually architecturally compatible with the property. The applicant has requested and is part of the agreement to enhance some of the features such as the door, the access entry, and some of the siding and roofing in order to make it more architecturally compatible with the main property. All exterior modifications, including basic property maintenance, that is additional beautification, those identified on the improvements list, and those that are not identified, do have to go through the certificate of appropriateness application through our planning division. All future projects submitted will be required to comply with Article 40 for historic resources, Article 65, Old Escondido neighborhood, and design guidelines for homeowners of historic resources. And all the scheduled improvements, both in and out of the contract, do have to comply with the Mills Act contract guidelines as stated. The project and contract agreement have been reviewed by staff and found to be categorically exempt from CEQA, pursuant to Section 15331, which is Historical Resource Restoration and Rehabilitation. And based on the analysis complied with the staff report, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve Resolution 2024-16, recommending to the City Manager the execution of the contract. And that concludes my presentation. Staff and the applicant are available if there are any questions.
Thank you. And thank you for muscling through that. I know it was hard. Much appreciated, all the effort.
I do feel all right. It's just quite.
Before we go any further, and I should have asked this beforehand, any disclosures on the project? Any questions of staff? Commissioner Spear?
I'm just curious, I'm trying to understand the garage door. What was the improvement to the garage door?
So they were aiming to replace the primary entry door with something that was period appropriate, as well as some of the interior fixtures within the garage space. A lot of it is just basic 2x4, 2x6s. I did not provide pictures in the staff report. However, as part of the application, they provided pictures for justification. A lot of that's going to be improvements to the electrical, some of the actual components in the inside as well.
Okay, the garage door is the large garage door is not the issue, it's the front door.
The one they identified was the primary front door, as well as they suggested some improvements to the garage door, which this is presented to you as the Planning Commission if you do have any suggestions as well. Because this is still the contract that has not been finalized. We can certainly, we have historically with the Historic Preservation Commission take additional recommendations if you do have some as well.
On that note, so if we're looking for recommendations to the garage door, Do we know how this current garage door is consistent or not consistent with this?
Unfortunately, no. The original building plans do not exist. This was constructed in 1947, so we don't know of any compatible architecture. Basic architecture designs of the time, Craftsman Bungalow, the Provisional Revival series, don't really go into accessory structures as much as the primary. So typically, whenever these get reviewed by the certificate of appropriateness process, we do try to see some sort of architectural compatibility between the accessory structure and the main home. So period appropriate would be more so the design of the door as opposed to the specific, this is what you require. And staff has a number of resources available to them. Design guidelines for most historic resources. We have a field guide of historic houses of American homes that we utilize regularly in these projects, as well as additional supplemental materials from the Secretary of the Interior.
Do those have, I don't know if you know this, but do those have to do more of the surround of the door than the door itself? You know?
Sometimes they do include information for the trim, usually not specific. However, the design guidelines do go into specifics for trim and recommendations, so we utilize as much as we can.
Last question is, the window improvement was an improvement that was already completed in county as part of the improvements.
Yes.
Is that right? Was that improvement painting only, is my question?
The improvement itself was also the repair and the replacement of the wood framing, as you can see around the windows. So those was completely removed and replaced from my understanding and looking at the receipts you provided, correct? Property owner may speak to.
Eric, hold on one second. We'll go ahead and get questions as soon as we complete our questions of staff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The full receipts were provided by the applicant and for justification of the cost, as well as just description of what the repair was and specifics.
Help me understand, what is our criteria for evaluating the improvements?
Typically, we go into materials and design and presentation, as well as view from public right of way. In addition to that, Article 40, the certificate of appropriateness process, does have a section of findings criteria for design compatibility with the design review component. I can't see those off the top of my head, but we do review those for consistency.
That's something staff would review.
Correct.
This is probably not my purview at all, and it may have something to do just with the picture, but my eye can't help but notice the deflection. There looks like there's a deflection in that windows. That's why I asked, did they repair that, or are they going to find that there's something more? I mean, it looks water damage to me. Anyway, it's not relevant to what we're looking at. Just but that's all the questions that I have. Thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Jester?
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it. Question. Going back to the garage door, you said the garage was built in 1947, you think?
Per the available records that we do have, the residential building record notes an improvement in that area, roughly in size. And sometimes our records, that's all we have. And that's where we put the information.
It looks like, to me, just looking at it, it looks like an RV garage. Maybe they were putting an RV in there. I don't know.
That could be. Again,
Definitely an oversized door, and the height of it is.
yeah. Unfortunately, again, no plans specifically exist. We only have the footprint and the construction.
Not a whole lot of RVs back in the 40s.
I don't believe so.
One other question I have with regard to how frequently do interior, I noticed there were some interior repairs. Do they count towards the,
So
I thought it was an aesthetic exterior mostly.
typically we defer to the aesthetic as far as the outside improvements, structural integrity. However, it's not a hard requirement. In our Mills Act application itself, as well as other jurisdictions, interior modifications and enhancements can be included as part of this, especially if they are part of maintenance and integrity of the home itself. If you're just replacing a fixture, a little less likely. If you're doing much more significant repair, then we do take those into consideration. Oftentimes, we'll ask applicants for a much longer list, and then we select ones that are.
So it looks like those interior repairs were probably structural.
And some of them did appear that way with the materials provided by the applicant.
Makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions of staff? All right, thank you. At this time, I don't have any questions. If the applicant would like to come up and say anything, this is your opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Lori Hatley, and I can clarify a couple of these images. So the door there, that was left behind by the previous owner. That's the original front door that was on the house. Right now, there's another front door. So just part of my list of things that I'd like to do future repairs or modifications or historical, modifications back to the originality of the home is to redo the front door. It needs to be repainted, or just old paint taken off and just, fixed up properly so it can be replaced back to the front door. And then the garage door, yeah, that's just like an 8x8 garage door on that. It's just a small single-car garage. And so just as far as that goes, I mean, like what Alex was saying about historical, I mean, the garage door could be replaced maybe for more of like a carriage style or just something that maybe looks a little more authentic for the period that it was constructed. And then, would you mind going to the, I can better explain the picture. Okay, so these windows were not included on the certificate of appropriateness. Certificate of appropriateness was obtained about 15 years ago from the previous owner, so they could make sure that the windows in the home were appropriate, period, correct. But this is up in the attic, and when I purchased the home, there was no glass at all in these windows. Water was coming in and pouring in, and moisture, things were getting damaged up in the attic. So right away, the first project I did was I maintained the integrity of the look by having glass custom made into the shape of like diamonds and trapezoids to fit the special shapes of the windows, and had those inserted. And then had sliding windows put in so we could get some cross ventilation in the attic to try to keep the house a little cooler. And then, as Mr. Rangel mentioned about the attic fan, being in there, all what you want in your attic to help your attic and your home stay cool. So the pictures on my left are the before pictures, and then afterwards, that's the glass put in, and then both the interior and the wood was repaired because the glass couldn't just be inserted into the wood without a repair. And then after the wood was repaired, the glass put in, and the wood was painted. So.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Corral?
Just to verify, the two sliding windows, are those wood framed? The two white sliding windows?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant? All right, we'll go ahead and close public testimony, and we'll move to planning commission discussion. Comments?
Looks extremely clean and straightforward to me.
Yeah, I agree. Motion?
Move approval of the Mills Act contract.
Second.
From Vice Chair Barber, second from Commissioner Correll. If we can have the roll call on the vote.
Let's switch chairs real quick. Chair Wiley.
Yes.
Vice Chair Barber.
Yes.
Commissioner Magaro. Commissioner Spear.
Yes, approved.
Commissioner Jester. And Commissioner Cole.
Approved.
Vote is 6-0-2.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
And good luck with the future improvements. This time we'll go ahead and move to any future agenda items by the Planning Commission.
Yes, there's
Vice Chair Barber.
two things that I'd like to discuss. Assuming whether or not it's going to be appropriate to discuss these kind of topics, or if I might need a second to continue the discussion, or if it's even under our purview. But I am concerned that in our area, there's been 2 battery storage facilities approved, one in Escondido, one in Valley Center, and they've both caught on fire. And I'm more concerned that we just recently, a few months ago.
Sorry, can I just interrupt?
Okay,
Because
that's why
this
I
is not an agendized item, so if you want to place an item on the agenda for the next meeting, if I could ask you to just simply state the topic.
I would like, thank you. I would like if staff could please bring back a report on exactly what the circumstances that created the fire recently at the storage. And I would also like to see if it's possible, based on the facility that we recently approved, where we were very specific and wanted questioning what could be safety hazards and what the safety measures would be. I would like to know in a report whether the one that just had the incident had the same safety features so I could see and feel more comfortable, whether or not we've gotten the extra length to protect this from happening in the future.
So I will remind the commission that the bylaws do clearly state that when the commission agendizes an item for their discussion through their own purview, staff are not necessarily beholden to providing additional work for that discussion item. So I would say at this point in time, the realistic feasibility of staff providing that level of information in a curated report is unrealistic before the end of this year. We are happy to provide the commission with the original approvals for the Goal Line facility, which is the facility that you're referencing, as well as any pertinent information that's come out of the City Council regarding battery energy storage systems. But at this point in time, staff won't be able to produce a staff report specific to those points for a future Planning Commission requested agenda item.
Can you then do the minimum that you suggested you might be able to do?
Staff will follow up with the commission with those provided documents.
Okay, the second item is really more relative to Owen.
Well, hold on, before you go to the second one, maybe we stay with the first one, because at this point, you would like to bring this up for a discussion and some information from staff. We need somebody else to say, yes, they want to have this come up. Isn't
Yeah.
that how the bylaws work?
Yes, just to be clear, not for the information. No, staff's already agreed to provide the information you want. No, but if you
So
want
there's
to
no
discuss
discussion.
this, you're not asking to discuss that as a
It's not going to be a future discussion.
Got it, now I understand. Okay, so the second one, will that be for a discussion of the Planning Commission? And then go ahead and,
Interested in discussing it? Feedback.
but I don't know what the second one is. Sorry.
Veronica would offer to bring back that she would show what was approved on the battery storage facility so we can see what the criteria was.
So to clarify,
Are you to the old thing? Are you on the second one?
also just
Oh, okay, well, sorry, I got jet lag from Italy.
Just to clarify on that point, staff is not going to bring the item back to the commission for presentation. Staff will email the commission with the link to the approved agenda packet and the documents that staff had received, or the commission had received back in December of last year. We can also send the PowerPoint presentation that was presented to the commission at that time, if that is also a part of the request of information.
Okay, well, it would be appreciated. Okay, so now I'm moving on to the second item.
Yes.
All right, thank you for the clarification. Oh, the Daily Ranch Resort project that's being proposed recently apparently had illegal grading going on. Is it possible for you to brief us on what the extent of that grading was and where they are in the pipeline, where they're seeking annexation and development of that project?
Okay, I'm going to jump in here because if that is a current application of any kind, then the Planning Commission is not supposed to be discussing that. I don't know whether that is, whether you're talking about an active application or not.
So there technically is an active application. It hasn't been withdrawn by the applicant, and the applicant has contacted staff within the last 6 to 9 months, noting they intend to continue moving forward with the project. So staff is able to send the commission general information on what has transpired, if that is appropriate, via email, but
Something the Commission would like to see because it's not something the Commission is able to discuss because it's
Would that also include a briefing on the extent of the grading that took place?
Again, I don't think staff is able to provide a briefing. I don't want to speak for you, Veronica, but I don't think that's...
so staff does not have a created document that briefs on the extent of the grading, the unpermitted grading that's transpired. So you're requesting staff to create a new document or a new product to brief you on that. And I would say that's something that, again, staff doesn't have capacity to undertake at this point in time, in probably the amount of time you would be interested in receiving it. Staff is more than available to chat with you directly, talk directly with you or with any of the commissioners if they have questions about what has transpired, or provide you with a high-level email correspondence on summarizing what has transpired.
Vice Chair, I mean, I understand your concern. I think that it might be best to go ahead and speak with the city planner directly, maybe outside of this venue. And if that satisfies the information you're looking for, it may not be necessary to bring this up before the rest of this body, because I don't know that there's anything that we would be able to actually act upon on that, because sounds like it may be a engineering and code enforcement type of issue that's not before us, and it may or may not ever get before us.
I'm fine with that.
And then certainly, when you find out more information, if you feel that it warrants further discussion, then yeah, I think it'd be appropriate, I guess, to bring it back to us, and then we collectively can say, yes, we want to hear more about this, or we don't, dependent upon input from the city planner.
Owen?
I was just going to point out that at this time, we have not received a mapped extent of the grading. And so that, we don't have that yet.
Thank you.
Commissioner Justice.
I just have a question. So in a situation like this, is the code violation a matter of public
Wait,
record?
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop the discussion. This isn't on the agenda, so it's not a time we can ask questions for staff until there's something agendized. This,
Awful lot of questions being asked.
I understand, but I'm also stopping them when we're getting substantive in terms of.
I can show you where she's at.
So I think just to reiterate for the commission, this future agenda items is meant to be when the commission wants to have a discussion at either the next regularly scheduled meeting or a future regularly scheduled meeting. Doesn't have to necessarily be the next one. We could put it on a future date. But the intention is for it, since it's not agendized, there can be no discussion. And the request is to have it agendized. It requires an additional vote or supporting motion by a commissioner. And then it gets placed on that future agenda. And then this type of discussion can transpire. So just to clarify, which is why Dare is jumping in here.
Thank you. So at this point, we're
Good.
terrific. All right. Anything else from any of the other commissioners about future agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to, of course, there's no other oral communications that have come up.
No.
Any reports from the planning commissioners? Seeing none, move on to the city planners report.
Yes, so as you all are more than likely aware, we're entering the last quarter of the year, and there are roughly 5 regularly scheduled planning commission meetings left in the year. We do have 2 items scheduled for 10/8, which is the next regular meeting. That will entail a somewhat heavy agenda. We will have the continued item from tonight, which is a new development project. We will also have a secondary new development project with a specific plan amendment. Then we have 10/22. We are anticipating holding that meeting. We also have a meeting on November 12th, which will entail a development project that's tentatively scheduled. And then there is a second meeting in November that is the Tuesday prior to Thanksgiving. I will be sending an email to see who will be able to make that meeting, because it is 2 days, I recognize, before Thanksgiving holiday, and we may not have quorum. And then we will have 1 meeting in December, because the second meeting in December falls on December 24th, and that meeting will most likely 99.9% be canceled. So that takes us through into 2025. Yeah. So that item is on the TFA. It is a project that is anticipated to be seen before the commission within the next 3 months. So it is tentatively scheduled for a date, but once we pass some internal milestone deadlines, then it will be formally placed on the schedule. So at this point in time, we can't, most likely it will go in November, but we can't speak substantively to the request at this point.
All right. Anything else? If not, this meeting is adjourned.